Hey, hey, hey. Actually, that's not even how I start it. Now I'm just trying to imitate Fraser Brooks, and that is totally on record. Ahoy, legendary listeners. You are listening to the Halo Effect podcast with Lauren Quelhurst. And today on the show, we have someone very dear to my heart, someone who I really don't know who I'd be without her. And that is my gorgeous sister, Sarah Quelhurst. And as you can see, I've got my tea and she's got her coffee if you're watching this live. And the crackerjack thing about all of this is that we're literally like 5 minutes from each other, but to keep this somewhat formal for now, we decided to separate ourselves because us together in the same room, I think it would just be fits of laughter, and I'm not sure if we'd even get through any content. So before I get too far with saying too much else, I'd like to just give her a little bit of an introduction and why I've actually got her on here in the first place. So she's been a huge role model of mine throughout my whole life. I'm fortunate that she's my older sister. So she's been in my life my entire 27 years of living. And recently, over the last couple of years, she's moved into her latest business venture and has actually created her own business. And she's the CEO and founder of Canine Calm, where she trains walkers to walk around, Australia-wide. It started mainly in Queensland and is spreading now to Western Australia, where we're both living. But she also does the training and walks herself. So she doesn't only just preach and teach, she also practices. And that's something that I've observed and watched a lot over the years. She's someone who keeps to her word. And she's also really passionate about the human behind all of the dog stuff. So so many people can come in saying, I have this dog problem, I have this, and she likes to meet the owners where they're at so she can understand what their outcomes are with what they're wanting from the dog training or the walking. And she can also meet the needs of what the dog needs, whether it's anxiety or whether it's connection or whether it's calm. So she has this beautiful approach in what I see as more like a dog psychology, human bond. And I think it's something that's really special that not a lot of people are offering, and certainly not in the way that she offers it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased. I think she's absolutely incredible in what she does. And also a little bit about her previous work history. She was in marketing and, how would I say that?
Like content creation, marketing, social media.
Yeah.
I think content creation sums it up pretty well.
Yeah. So she was working in an industry where she was working very closely with the owners of that business. And I think that's a beautiful segue into how all of her dog business came about. So I would love for you to speak about what drew you to the passion that you live today. How did Canine Calm come to be? And, I know your story, but I would love for you to speak from your own voice and your own way of saying this, how this all just catalyzed, basically.
Well, firstly, my lovely girl, I just love you so much. And I'm appreciative that you would have me on, even if we are like literally 2 rooms apart. I can hear you. As you're saying the intro, I can hear you from inside. So that just makes me smile the whole time as well. Secondly, before I get into it, can you hear that rain or is it okay? Is audio all good?
Audio's fine.
Audio's fine. It just started raining. So I'm like, I didn't know if I needed to plug my headphones back in.
It'd be that situation where I'm just like, it's fine, listens back.
Exactly. You're like, are your headphones plugged in? No, literally just bucketing. I'm here just drenched in the next scene. But, no. But anyway, thank you for having me. And where do I even start? Like, how much time do we have here? Because I feel like, the story of Lush is just such a big story. I think that's so near and dear to me. Like you were saying, I got him. Well, firstly, let's start with, I was working, like you were saying, in my previous job. So I was there for about 6 years, it probably was. in the last couple of years, a random situation happened where it started with really volunteering. So we were volunteering at a German Shepherd rescue. And I feel like that was really the first point of where I realized I just fell in love with that breed. And I think now it planted the seed for me of the breed, but also animals in general, because we didn't really grow up, I don't think, with, I wouldn't say family dogs or this sort of style of training or teaching with dogs that I'm now so passionate about. So I feel like that really just came natural to me as I kind of went forward in rescuing my own dog. But the first seed was planted was when I was volunteering at the German Shepherd Rescue. And I think I just fell in love with the breed there, and then kind of skipped forward about, I think it was a year, maybe a year or two, right in the last little patch of working at this particular agency where I was doing a lot of content creation and a lot of other stuff, where my boss was actually doing a lot of forensic work. And she had a situation where she was called in to rescue a group of puppies with the organization that we're also doing a lot of volunteer work with. And I still remember, because we'd just moved into our last house, and well, it was probably a couple of houses ago now. I kind of forget how much time has passed, but it was a couple of houses ago. And I remember being in the bathroom, and, you know, my old boss, we've got a very close relationship. So she called me at nighttime and she's like, all right, this is an emergency situation. We've rescued 6, dogs from some backyard breeders. They're very underweight. They're very malnourished. They're probably not going to survive a couple of days. It's pretty bad. And before she could even finish saying it, I'm like, yep, yes, absolutely. We will take one. Like, we've got it. Didn't even need to hear the rest of the story. Hadn't even asked Josh. Like, we weren't even together at the time. And actually, I'm trying to remember, were we together? That's beside the point. But I just pretty much said yes, because I was so, it just everything in me, those situations where it's like everything in you is like, I'll say yes and figure out the rest later. It was one of those sort of situations where I'm like, yes, absolutely. We were moving house in a couple of weeks. So I said, I won't take him when, we're going to be moving house. I didn't want to put him under that level of stress. And so long story short, like, he went to a different foster. And then, Josh and I went and picked him up those couple of weeks later. And it was like, that was the start right there. Like, that was the start of everything. And little did I know, like, anyone that has a dog that's got a lot of problems would relate and understand that at the time, it doesn't really seem like much. You're kind of going through the notions, you're going through just the journey of having a young dog. And I think I forgot that he was 6 months old when I rescued him, because he was so tiny, because of the malnourishment and all of that. I just kind of thought I had a puppy, and I didn't really piece 2 and 2 together about training and, what's going to be involved with, like, owning this sort of breed. I'd been around them and I'd loved the breed, but I hadn't really had experience with what they needed and the level of work that they need, the level of training, the level of requirements, I guess, that they really needed. And so it wasn't until about 6 months later, really, where, me, my boss, and the lady that, like, the other work friend that I had there, we all rescued one of the dogs from the same litter. And it was really then about 6 months later where we started seeing, whoa, like, we've got dogs that are now very aggressive to people. They're very fearful of everything. They hadn't been around any people, any other dogs, any other situations. And so that really started the journey for me of what training was. And it opened my eyes to the amount of other people, I think, that would be going through similar situations that probably don't have the support that I had around me. And then, that was really the start of the journey. I know I've probably rambled a lot there, but I feel like it's important in this story to know that, like, that was how it started for me. It was a complete shit show, to be honest. It was very messy, very clunky, and at times it still is like that. But it was through my own journey of raising him and going through many different situations where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I don't have anybody that understands this. No one else around me that has dogs is going through this. I couldn't find the services that I need. I'd reached out to people. Nothing was working or clicking. And I just had this moment of, like, if I can't find what I want, or I'm not in location to, someone around me that can offer this support, then I need to create that. I need to be the change that creates that myself. And that's kind of where the business like Canine Calm was really born, just, you know, through my own experiences with Lushy.
That was such a beautiful story. As much as I know you and as much as I know your background and where Lushy's come from and your passions, it's still amazing. Like, I could talk to you all day about, you know, all of the experiences you've gone through, not just with Lushy, but in other areas of your life. But where I see you really come alive is, you know, it has been your passion ever since you've got in, because I know at that time I'd moved down to Tasmania and I remember getting a phone call from you like, I've got a puppy, like what the hell kind of thing. And we'd never, like you said, we didn't have dogs growing up. We were the kind of kids who saw a stray dog and asked mum if we could keep it, but we kind of had like mouses or birds, or like we had a passion for animals, and we always knew that dogs would be a part of our life at some point. And when Sarah got Lushka, her baby German Shepherd, I just remember thinking like, this is it. I don't know what. It was just like, this is it. This is the start of something. And something that you always say to me now is like, training begins the day you get the dog. And I wonder kind of where your perspective is with that in hindsight of like really not knowing how much work was involved with that. Would that quote speak true to the training starts with you as well as the dog? Or speak to that.
Definitely. And I think that like you said, you're biased because you know me so well. It's not that you're regurgitating stuff that I'm saying, but you know me. And so I think that you can speak from that experience of seeing me with clients, but also seeing me at home and how I am with Lush and Ella. It's not just Lushy, but definitely I think, and this is something that I've learned as well. Like this is something that I'm still in that journey, and I don't think I ever, well, I know I don't ever put things out that I'm not educated in or I haven't had experience in. And I'm very transparent with other owners of where I am at in my journey. Like Lush is still alive. Lush isn't this pured ball of fur that I'm like, all right, well, here's my masterpiece, everybody. It's like, he is still that dog that I learn from. And I think every trainer and every person that I've been fortunate to meet that has had similar experiences with dogs, they completely get it, that these are our, like, they're our teacher dogs, right? They're the dogs that like teach us everything, and that constantly push us, constantly challenge us, constantly give us opportunities to check in with where we're at. And I think, yeah, absolutely, like you were saying, it does start with the person. And it's something that I think is why I wanted to make a shift from not necessarily just doing dog training, but doing a lot of work with the owner. Because as I was moving through my journey with Lush, one thing I didn't mention was that we did go through a different trainer, and she's still amazing, and she's an amazing trainer. And we learned so much. We got so many key foundational dog training tips, dog training techniques, dog training management tools. But what we didn't get was really the understanding of what's required on our end to make sure that he would be set up down the road, if that makes sense. So we got the tools, but we didn't really get the coaching or the, we had support there, but it wasn't at a level that I felt like we really needed. And obviously we were a very unique case in that, like, the needs that we had for Lush were probably very different from like a dog that's just chewed up a sofa, or like that's peed in the house once or something like that. But I feel like it was that moment that now when I look back, it's like I was using my own experiences of like, what did I really need and what was really missing from other friends and family that I was chatting to in the dog training world that they really would have valued from and needed. And when I kind of broke it down and scaled it all back, I was like, oh, well, that could have just been prevented if the owner had known to do this, this, and this. That could have really have been communicated to the dog if the owner knew why they had to do this, this, and this. And that for me was where I think a lot of the coaching and areas that I'm now doing in my business has really expanded the business, because a lot of people now not only like come to me for the dog training help, but they're understanding that I love people and I care about the person. And not just that, I've been in a position that if they've gone through something challenging, either I've known someone that has or I've been through it myself. And I think that for someone that's going through it is really all you need. You just need to know that you're not alone, and you know that that other person really understands what you're going through, and it's not just like, all right, well, just do this 3 times a day and you'll be fine. It's like, it's just a car going by, but it's like, yeah, but I don't believe that it's going to be fine. And like we know with the training or with anything that we're doing in our jobs, with our relationships, with our work, it's like, if you don't truly believe in the process of it happening, or if you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, you'll always hit a cap. You'll always hit a point where you're going, all right, well, I've done all of this, this, and this, and I'm still here. I'm still here. And I think I was coming across that with, it's now that I look back with a lot of owners that not only have been through, I tend to get a lot of owners that have been through multiple trainers. And that's not that I'm better than other trainers. It's the support that I can offer is not being there for, I think, a lot of the other owners. And that's something that I feel like I can offer, and that sets me apart from, I think, a lot of other trainers in the area.
I would definitely agree with that. And it's why you get the clients that you do. And I know something that you say often is like, I feel like I've done nothing. And I'm like, girl, remember that so many of them don't have that connection or the community. And that's really what you're setting up. So it's that reminder, I think, as you grow into your business, of like what you offer is truly unique. And it might just be something small to you, but for them, just the catch up or letting them know that, you know, you've filmed their dog or taken a picture of them while they're training and wrote a little story is like you said, it sets you worlds apart from other trainers out there. I don't see anything looking at least in the slightest closest to what you do, which also brings me to my next point of I feel like we're a very similar person in a lot of ways, but we also have extreme differences. And that's why I think we work so well together in terms of, you know, living together, working together. We can kind of do anything, and it feels like we're just 2 peas in a pod, so to speak, which is a really beautiful quality to have with a sister. I know a lot of people say, you're so lucky. I'm like, damn right I am. Like, she's mine. You can't touch her. And but what we talk about often is like, with yoga, I've got so many people that I could look up and train under, and that's overwhelming in one sense. But in your line of work, you say like you really struggle to find someone who is doing what you do now. So you're kind of the creator. So I'd love to hear who your first mentor was in this line of work, where you sort of thought, oh, I really love what they do, but I want to build upon that.
That's a really good question, actually, of like, and something that I think of all the time. And I think that's because we're doing so much work on ourselves that, you know, if I was not doing the work on myself, I probably would have just kind of rolled on by and not really put thought into like checking back in on how I got into this and what those catalyst moments were. Just to kind of go back before I answer that question, you were saying like being the creator in it. It's like, I just wanted to touch on that, like, I haven't created this style of training. It was just that like, it was what I was offering that was different. So it wasn't the style of training, or it wasn't, you know, say balance training as a whole. This has been around for years through operant conditioning and lots of other, you know, dog training has been around for years, whether we've liked it or not. Our dogs are getting trained, whether we like it or not. It's just that I was more talking about that support and the coaching, that the level of coaching and support that I wanted to offer in my business. I didn't see that. I didn't see that one-on-one style coaching the way that I wanted to do it in many other trainers. So that's kind of where I felt like I wanted to create something myself. Just to clarify that. Yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of my mentors and trainers, that's something that it's a really good question, because I feel like a few of the other trainers I've spoken to would agree with me on this, of like, it's split up, right? Like there's dog trainers that really motivated me, and really that I guess I studied and learned and kind of cherry picked all the bits and pieces that I liked and resonated with. Some of those were like Sean O'Shea, like The Good Dog. A lot of them were overseas, or still are overseas, like Solid Canine, Jeff from there. I know a lot of people have a lot of different opinions. These are just people that I looked at and thought, oh, I like this, I like that, and kind of cherry picked things that I liked. There's a lot of female trainers. There's too many to mention that I've connected with since being in this business that I absolutely love and admire, like just women dog trainers being total badasses. But I think for me, it wasn't so much the dog training side of things that now looking back that I really got a lot from. It's been the personal development side. So it was like broken into two. There was like, the dog training mentors that I love, the people that are actually on the ground doing the training, but it's the people in the personal development field that I feel like I've got most of my knowledge and wisdom and like insights from, because that's ultimately what I'm doing. Like I'm in a people business, not a dog business. And I think if you don't have the people skills, then it doesn't matter if you can train the dog. If you can't communicate that to the owner, if you can't meet the owner where they're at, the dog isn't going to change. And I know that from experience as well. So there's a huge array of like personal development mentors like Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, and there's many books that I've read in all different fields that I feel like give me for like ongoing support and ongoing insights as I go. I think they are now really what motivates me, keeps me moving forward, and keeps me, I guess, in a space where I'm one with the people, like I'm really connected with the owners rather than just being an amazing dog trainer. I think we're all dog trainers, whether we like it or not. So just because I might be able to do something, a dog might be calm with me or they might listen to me, is much more based on who I am and the things that I'm practicing on my own rather than how good I can hold a leash, if you know what I mean. So now I think a lot of my knowledge and my spare time is spent like understanding from other people that are going through personal growth in their own ways. They don't need to be going through seminars, but they're invested in growing, they're invested in learning and education. They're a lot more of my mentor than people that are just with dogs and that are training dogs. But there have been a few. I think the two that I mentioned at the start, the two mentors, they are both very big on personal development too. So I think that's why I resonate with the people that I love that are dog trainers, is that there's this marrying between loving the dogs and loving the training, but really understanding that it's about the person and it's about how much they're empathetic with people and what they're going through too.
Great answer, girl. What has Lushka, your German Shepherd, beautiful boy, I love him to bits, what has he taught you most about yourself, and what has working in the industry with other people's dogs taught you about yourself? And is that the same thing, whether you've thought about it or not? You can ramble.
I can ramble, but whether I'll answer the question is it. No, I love that. I don't think I've ever been asked that. So many things. Like I think Lush, he's taught me, like I feel like Lush is that teacher dog that's like taught me everything, in the sense of like he is, like I was saying earlier, he is my teacher dog. He's not someone that it's like I've learned something from, done, off I go. Like I'm constantly learning with him. Every day I take him out, I'm learning more on like, I guess, how to be more patient, how to be more like empathetic, so he's more taught me a lot of values, I think, rather than just skills necessarily. There's the obvious of like, he's taught me many skills. He's taught me how to actually train dogs in a sense, because I've had to with him. He's taught me, I think the biggest one would be like to not have a cookie cutter approach, to not go, all right, well, this has worked for one dog, so this is how every dog needs to be trained. Because he's so sensitive, which it's not just a Lushka thing, this is a dog thing as well, but because he needed such, and he needs such like intricate care in the sense of how he is trained, he can change day to day. I think it's made me be very like present every day. It's like, don't get don't get hooked into doing it one way, and then that's the way that everybody needs to be trained, or every dog needs to be trained. It's like, be flexible, I guess. So that's probably my biggest learning from Lush, is just the flexibility in how I train. How patient I am has been like a really big insight, I think, with, you know, being persistent and being patient. And then also the fact that training isn't that quick fix. Like, it really hit me with him of like, yes, some dogs I've worked with, like you were saying, the other part of the question is, what have other dogs taught me? Like, some dogs I've worked with, it's like literally it might have been a little correction on the leash, or getting their heel a little bit, you know, a bit better for the owner, or teaching the owner how to properly hold a leash, and that just was it. And that's what they needed. And it's like, bingo, everything else is fine. So I think other owners and dogs, it can be that simple, right? It can just be like twisting or tweaking one little thing. For Lush, it's like, it's very much that what I've learned is like, don't just look at the symptom behavior. There's a lot of other stuff going on. So don't just try and work on the walk, or don't just try and work on, you know, teaching obedience. You've also got to work on a lot of other things, like, how are you talking to the dog? What's your relationship like with the dog? You know, where are they sleeping? What are they doing? Like, he's taught me kind of a wide array of just how to be and live with a dog that is a different species. I think for other owners and other, I don't know if any of that made sense, but it did. Awesome. For other owners and other dogs, I think what I've learned is that, I guess it's pretty similar, and that like, they're all different. And I think that's what I really, really love about the job, is that, and I don't like calling it a job, because it is like it's like a mission in a way. What I love about it is that every dog is different. Like, just because, and this is where I think for me, I don't sit with like labeling myself as one thing, or labeling that I only do this or I only do that. Every dog requires different things. And yes, there are standard things across the board of what dogs need in terms of exercises and their needs in general, but how those needs are met can look different for every dog. And so I think the dogs have taught me to like pay attention to the owners, and how that marries together of like, okay, this sort of dog typically has this sort of owner, and if I get better with, you know, communicating better with this owner, or educating more on this topic, then I don't typically see as many dogs struggling with that sort of thing, if that makes sense. So and I think for me, I've always just loved people behavior in general, and like the study of people. And I know you're similar, girl, like we're both the same, and it's probably why you're doing this podcast, right? Because you love people and you love learning their story and why they do what they do. It's the same for me. I've always had an interest in people. And so of course I love animals, and I love being around animals, but it's really cool that the dogs have taught me how to better understand people, and to kind of be an inlet into the worlds of people that I probably would never have had the luxury of like learning more about. So that's probably my biggest insights.
That's beautiful. And speaking from just knowing you and having grown up with you, I can see with perspective that you were doing that from a very young age. And I know it's something that we've spoken about before, of like, you were the one who was always, you know, pretty stable along when other people were going through crises or whatnot. Like, even through my own journeys with mental health stuff, other things going on in life, and other people around you, you kind of built your own foundation right from the very beginning. And something that I remember when I was going through my stuff is that you didn't have that cookie cutter approach of, you should do this, you should do that. You just were there for me. And like, I think that's what you give to your trainers. It makes me emotional thinking about it, actually, because it's like, it's such a big thing. And I don't want to bawl my eyes out on here, but it's such a beautiful quality that you share, girl. And it's just like, it's just so amazing. I don't know why that just hit me. Like, oh my God.
I know. I think it's because we are, and this is the thing of being authentic, right? Like we're both so connected, and like you've always said, we've got that connection where we know if the other person's feeling off. And I think it's beautiful that you looked at it like that about me, because I think it's like when you're in it, or it's you're not looking at it of how you've affected other people years ago, or if there's any similarities or patterns. And the fact that you can think back and like pair it with that, that's definitely something that I know you've got that beautiful ability to, because you're very observant, you can remember situations that have happened years ago and things that most people typically don't remember or think of. I think part of that is that, like, because I was with you, I might have appeared stable and like I was always there, but I think the other part is that we're always so connected that I might not have needed to have done it the same way other people have, because I have that, I know you and I know who you are on a different level, that I didn't need to ask certain questions because I knew. That makes sense.
100%. Yeah, which is still a huge strength, because a lot of people can, back away from that or go, I literally don't know what to do or say, or nothing's going to be right. And you just kept being there. And it's like that quality of patience, I think, like you say, it's with Lushka, but I think you've developed that like well before you got Lushka. He gave you a different level of the patience that you needed, and the environment and all of that. And
Sorry, girl.
No, that's okay.
I got excited.
Yeah. Go. Get excited.
I was just thinking, like, when you were saying that of like, it's funny how you don't, it sometimes, like you always say, it takes a catalyst, or it takes something sometimes for you to realize your strength or your courage or whatever it is, even your vulnerability in a certain moment. It takes that moment. And for me, like, even now, I'm not with clients thinking, oh, I'm so patient, or I'm not out with Lush thinking, oh, I'm really patient here. Like, don't think of it like that.
Yeah.
But I think when you get asked questions like this of like what you take away from a situation, or what you enjoy, or what you've noticed, it's in those moments that you think, I am. And I have noticed that in like that can also be a weakness in certain things as well. Do you know what I mean? Like in certain relationships and certain things, you can be over patient, or you can be, that can be at the cost of having certain boundaries too. So it's like having the understanding of what your skills are, but then also knowing like the other spectrum of like, oh, if that gets too far out, like if I'm no, and I don't want it to sound braggy or something, like if you're too patient, or you're kind of wait. It's like, that's also not a healthy skill either. You need to be able to discern, like, all right, when do we actually need to move forward, or when do we need to change plans here because this isn't working? So I think it's also come at the cost of a lot of moments as well, where I've stuck with things that haven't worked for certain periods of time as well. And so, it's a skill, but then it's also like a teaching moment as well, of like knowing that about myself. I kind of go, all right, well, now I've got to check in though very carefully with certain situations. Like, am I sticking with something that's not working here? Should I be assessing it and changing path, or speaking up about this, or asking someone for help about this? Like, it's really interesting. And I think I'd never really paired it with being younger and being patient, but it's probably something that comes with having siblings too. You just learn a different level of patience, I think, when you're brought up around lots of different things, and also just different siblings too.
Totally. That crow's trying to join in, isn't he?
I was looking for him before and he swooped, but then I can't find him. I know there's a few going on. It's probably school time. No, it's
when
not.
You say you've looked for him, I'm like, he's been around the bends before, so what's his name?
He's
Tell me everything about him.
He's literally on my shoulder. The next scene. That would be me.
Yes.
Like, bro. Like,
I was just about to ask you, like, where's your dog business going? It's like I'm actually training crows. So sorry.
Dogs. Were you talking about dogs? That's really weird.
Lushka, my crow.
It's half dogs, half rats. That's the business these days. as you know.
Can you just define what Lushka means and why you chose the name Lushka? Because I think that's a really beautiful meaning behind that.
What Lushka means to me, or like the actual name Lushka?
No, the name, like how you came to choose it. Because I remember when you were deciding upon his name, that was something that I was just like, that is such a cool name and it has such a cool meaning behind it.
Yeah, I think when we got the dogs in, there was that period of time where we were fostering, and so we didn't know whether to name them or not because they weren't really ours. But then it got to that point where we decided that we were going to actually take them on as our own, and we're like, they probably need a name. Like we're not just going to be yelling out like little black dog, like get here. And so I had the only boy dog, which I found, like male dog, which I thought was super cool. I don't know why. It's probably something about me that likes being different and having like the thing that's different. I know you're the same too, girl, of like loving. It's nothing about you, but it's just loving the situation of having, oh, this is new. So yeah, when I was looking at different names, I was thinking, it's funny. I was like, nothing seems right. Like no diss to anyone else, but I'm like, I just don't want to call my dog Max or like Rex or Billy. Like I just don't want to, like, you know what I mean? Like a short 3-4 letter word, very dog. Like I wanted something a little bit different, and I was like, also don't want it to be so different that it's weird. And so I was looking up, because our ancestry, most people probably know, like that are in our sphere, but those that don't know, our ancestry is American Indian. And so I kind of started thinking like, oh, I know they have really cool, strong, like tribal names, like, you know, the Cherokee tribe. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool name. And just started researching, and I was looking at American Indian tribes and different terms and things like that. And then I was scrolling and I saw Halushka. So it's like Halushka, HELUSHKA. And I was like, oh, that seems cool. Like that's like long, but it sounds really strong. And then the meaning, when I looked at the meaning, it's fighter. And I thought, yeah, that is it. Because like when we first got like the dogs, they were called, because of their background, they were called the 5 Little Miracles. One had died, like when there were 6, I think, in the litter, one had died. And so when they'd first got them, they called them the 5 Little Miracles because they were like fighting for their life. And I was like, I didn't want it to be something depressing or something sad. I wanted it to be like a, you know, male dog, like a strong name. And when I read that and I saw fighter, I'm like, yeah, like it's a strength there. There's like a wanting to live. And I don't know, it just sounded cool. But then at the same time, I quickly learned, I'm like, Halushka, like it doesn't roll off the tongue very easily. And it's just, I don't know, a bit too long. And so from there, I kind of just summed it down to like Lushka. And I was like, yeah, Lushka sounds nice, like lushy, Lushka. And now it's kind of slow, like longer and longer. It's now went to like lush or lushy. And yeah, I think most people now that know him just call him Lush or Lushy or Mouse, because that's, I think, who he really is by nature, is a mouse. And it's funny because, like Lauren was saying at the start of this, we used to have mice growing up, which is so random. And I don't know if that was an era thing or if that's just our mum is rescuing random animals weird thing. But now he's kind of went from Lush to Mouse. And yeah, I think it just suits him so well.
And you always owned Papa Mouse. So cute.
It's so funny because we always say, like, with Lush, like Josh is like Papa to Lush. So it's like I always say Papa for Josh, and then Lushy's Mouse. And my mouse growing up as a child was Papa Mouse. And it's like, of course. So
you
cute.
wrote it in the stars. And yeah, another word we use for him, because I'm sure Sarah's going to come on many of my podcasts to come, or episodes, my many podcasts. Yes, that would so be me. 20 podcasts and 0 episodes. Yeah, we call dogs mitts. so MITTS, and we always I feel like we speak in a different language. It's a bit like, you know, the old pig Latin thing where people would talk like that at school, but I know I know that people who hang around us are just like, I can't even keep up with what you guys are saying. And I had this like third person experience just listening to this. I feel like people will be listening going, who's talking right now? They sound the same.
I was just thinking that, Lauren, because I'm going live and I just thought, because on portrait they can only see me and they can't see you, so they're probably going to be a ventriloquist because I can't actually hear Lauren. But without like totally railroading the interview, it's like Shane just commented saying you need to be able to rap a dog's name, and I'm like, that is so true.
That is so true.
Like, it's like, yeah, long names can work, but can they rhyme? Because they really need to be able to rhyme.
Well, the word that popped in, I've got 2 dogs' names that just came to me that when I get my dog, it's either going to be called Dennis or Kermit. And Dennis, because I guess now that can be wrapped into like Dennis the Menace, like he's just going to be the most badass, chilled out little thing. But I feel like I need a Kermie in my life that's like loves the cuddles and is just an absolute dork that if it could, it would wear Converse shoes and a helicopter hat, like what we, you know, edit onto Lushka on Canva in our spare time.
This poor dog is probably even going, take me back to the good old days. That's terrible.
Like, leave me in the pound, Lauren.
That's it. When you said Kermit, you've watched Jenna Marbles, haven't you? Because like she's not doing it anymore, but one of her dogs is Kermit, and like
that's the Whippet,
weird, the Whippet, and I feel like I think I like Dennis, Lauren. I think that Denny, like Dennis D, and for all reasons is just D down. Like, okay. We started good. We got like how long in?
We totally
started.
Did.
We got like what 2 seconds into this, and we're like, all right, we're nice back and flow. Now let's really show them who we are, and this is who we really are.
So we've got you this far. Great. Now please put your link in below and the joke of the year. Friggin' love it. To keep it rolling and to keep listeners engaged, I'm going to continue with the jokes because I know that they're loving this. No.
You're hearing Mr. D for the rest of this conversation, so get used to it, guys.
Girl, where are you going with your business? Where do you see this all moving towards? Because I know in businesses, you know, ideas can change, passions can change, and now I see this real strength in both the dog training and walking industry merge with the personal development and mindset side of it, and I see that as such a strong force moving forward. But I would love for you to speak to, you know, some of the new things that you're developing, like website wise and and client wise, if you've got any more clarity on that.
Yeah, so like you were saying at the start, I'm at the moment, I think where I'm at is training up walkers, because I think the real takeaway lately for me is like, if you can't leave your business without it still functioning, you're operating a business, you're not an owner. And so for me, I'm really starting to look at like, and it's not how can I remove myself out and never be seen, but it's like, how can I start to step away from parts of the business and have it still functioning so that I can start to grow it in other areas, like you said, that I'm really passionate about, like the coaching and the people side of things and the personal development side. So the part that I'm doing at the moment is building an online booking system where owners are going to be able to book their dogs in, not just for walks, but for some training on the walks. And the people that will be doing those walks, the dog walkers, are going to be trained by me. So they're not going to be employees under me, but they're going to have the training from me so that, you know, owners that want their dogs taken out aren't going to be worried like, oh, these people are going to be able to control my dog if they're reactive or whatever it is. They're going to know how to handle that. And I think that's very much a missing link out there of what's already available for dog walks, is that it's for a very niche amount of dogs that are just fine with whoever. And so that's something that I'm building on the side now, is like the online booking system where they can do that. Hopefully the future aim of that is for it to turn into an app where it's super mobile. Everyone can have it on their phone. You can just click in, search in your area. My trained walkers will come up. They're just going to be like along the coast of WA. But like you were saying, the aim is that it's going to be growing as well, because at the moment Josh is in the military, and part of that is that we always are moving. And I think that as long as we're moving around, and we all love travel and adventure anyway, so that's always going to be a part of what we do, and a part of, I think, our missions as well, to be able to give back and to just enjoy life as well. I want to be able to like leave something in every place that I go. And I feel like this booking system is going to be a really good way to be able to have kind of minions in different parts of Australia that can help owners, help the clients that I've been building these relationships with, so that they're not just left stranded. So that's a little Maggie going by, it wasn't Crow. So that's one part of it. And then I think that has really been my main focus at the moment. But something I've been toying with a lot is like more moving a lot of my board and trains virtually, where like there's a lot more like coaching. And I think the pandemic's been a really good like motivator for that, of like, how can I start to like give more coaching, give more of what I can offer without the dogs there, which is kind of my strength, like with the people. So it's like, how can I be offering that more at a larger scale? So whether it's like some Zoom chats with owners, some coaching like that, one-on-one group. A bigger aim for me is really like being able to travel around like different dog shelters and dog places, and give them and the staff education of how to like, yep, you might be volunteers here, you know, even some of the places in Sri Lanka, you might be volunteers, but how can you just know how to like teach the dog something little with the leash, so that they're getting some help, that the people that are working there that are so passionate about the dogs can feel empowered too. So they're going to get some support. But then also something that I'm really loving the idea of, because a lot of my clients love camping and outdoors and are very similar to us. It's like, how could I also look at maybe running some like dog camping retreats, maybe with you as well, doing some yoga. That's something we've chatted about a lot, of like dog camping yoga retreats where the owners can get some help with training their dogs. They can get some meditation themselves with you, but it just be out in nature and enjoy their dogs and life in the way that they really want, without having to worry, you know, about like, oh, what if my dog barks, or what if my dog lunges? It's like, you're in the right place. This is what we're all working on. So I think there are a few things that I'm really passionate about moving forward, but I think it's always going to change. The more that you start somewhere, and then the kind of fog clears up, and you're like, oh, now I want to do this and do that.
And you just never know who you'll meet. So like whoever's listening to this podcast in the future, listening to this episode and is feeling super inspired, or knows somebody that, you know, they can get in contact with, or a piece of land or a property that you can use for these retreats. It's like, you just don't know what putting your documentation of content does. Like, it either inspires people to do something similar, or it inspires them to reach out, you know, to go, have you ever thought of this? Have you ever thought of this? And it just gets that creative cog in your brain just turning. And it's like, the opportunities are really limitless. Like, if we choose to not limit it by the ceiling of our mind, we just have so much capacity to grow and to connect with others, to really like not only just better and strengthen your own business, but that will ultimately be giving back, which I know is such a huge value that you have, that's on your list of like what you're moving towards. So that just is, it's so cool, because like even just being in the same household, we get to like back and forth questions, and we always say dog training and yoga is nothing different. It's just different terms that we use. And I think that's something that's really cool, like about our bond, is that, you know, we can listen to each other and understand where each other's coming from. Because I've done bits of what you do. I've helped with training or filming and I'm definitely no expert, but then, yeah, you'll come and you'll do yoga classes with me. And it's like, we can both speak the same language, and appreciate what your business needs or what my business needs. And further than that, what our clients need. So
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, girl, with yoga and with dogs. It's like what it comes down to is like the communication side, even with
correct.
owners or clients, regardless of who it is. It's like there's a language in everything that we do. There's a language that for dog training, there's a language for yoga. And like regardless of it being, fancy terms or not, it's like being able to not only learn that language, so whether it's, different terms, different poses for yoga, or different techniques, different communication styles with dog training, it's then also about how do you share that? And that's really the contribution part. It's not about like, oh, I need to give back to 50,000 places. It's like you sharing and educating and putting out free content is contribution on its own. Like that's already doing more than a lot of people are doing, of like, all right, taking what I've learned, having it make sense to me, experiencing it, going through it, and now sharing and communicating it with someone else. Because as we know, we're all unique. We all go through different experiences, but most of the times, if it's not only one other person, there's many other people that have gone through something similar to what we have, if not the exact same thing. And so I think it just comes back to like knowing that regardless of what you go through, you're not on your own journey, even though it can feel like that sometimes. It can feel like you don't have the support. And like you were saying before, we're so fortunate that we live with each other and we've got such a close, strong network here, but we also built that too. It didn't just come from thinking like, oh, I can't wait for you to move in and just get here. Like we get up, we do our work on ourselves, we have our gratitude practices, we put time into our own learning and practices, and then come together. And I think something that we're all learning at the moment is like proximity is power. So who you're putting your time around, what you're watching, what you're consuming, the people, the things in your environment are all playing into how you live and behave in the world. So if you're miserable at home and you're expecting to just live an awesome life outside, doesn't work like that. It's going to start to creep into other areas. Just like if you're struggling, in your relationship, then finances are probably a problem. And I remember hearing this years ago and having it be something that always stayed with me, but you kind of just hear something sometimes and it goes out the other ear. But it's so true. Like you're never struggling in one area when you've got problems in life. It's always, doesn't mean it needs to be everywhere, but typically, and I think you'll relate to this as well, it's like when you're going through maybe a struggle with business or in relationships, you're noticing that same struggle coming up in other areas, whether it be boundaries or, communication or anything like that. You see it, you see those little niggly things coming up and it's like, all right, guess I better work on this then because it's coming up here now as well. You know what I mean?
Really well said, girl. Like, yeah, I completely resonate with that. And I know the viewers and listeners will hear that. And it's such a simple approach to life where, you can look at all the symptoms and then you go, well, if I actually treated the root cause of this, so many other things would make sense or start healing. Because something that's been really huge in my life, like, is boundaries and also like a sense of commitment. Like I'm someone who's not lazy and I'm very disciplined in a lot of areas, but committing through certain things has been at the expense of my success and the expense of me progressing. And now just committing in all areas of personal development, practice, nutrition, like holistically, it's like I can see how that commitment is actually giving me freedom. And that's something that for so long I was telling me it wouldn't give me. So if we can start to break down our symptoms and start looking for the root cause, we can start to really progress in a really incredible way, not just in one area of our life, but our whole life, like our relationships, our career, our health. And yeah, I get super passionate talking about this because we cannot expect to look at health and life in just one way. You have to look at it holistically, and it has to be what resonates with you. You can't follow my path if that doesn't resonate. You can't follow Sarah's path. Like, you know, you might follow similar things or have similar teachers, but you have to start taking ownership of your own life for what you've been through, and start being, what is it? Like, be so be the investigator of your own success.
Yeah. I think I was just going to say as well, girl, my friend's about to die. I think you bring up a good point with, I just wanted to be able to get that live out. Didn't want to be rude. I think, like you were saying, taking that ownership, it's like a book we both want to start reading is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willings. And it is that it starts with you. And it might sound, I know for me, it seems so blasé. Like years ago, I'm like, oh, you hear it. And it's one of those things that it's like, yeah, cool. And I think it's the same with everything. It's probably the same with yoga too, like it is with dogs. People wait until they've got the problem. They wait until something's not going right. And it's like, okay, guess I better do some yoga, or I've been told by a physio that I need to do yoga because my back's screwed up. I've been, you're waiting until this big thing happens, or until the dog's lunging, or until the dog's barking. It's like, guess I need to get a trainer because I've had a complaint from a ranger. It's about like looking at the situation and going, all right, why isn't this working? Oh, my phone's going to die. I'm going to have to cancel this live.
End the live.
I'm so sorry. I'm ending it.
And while you do that, I will just speak to the fact of taking ownership before it's a problem, but also to not get put off if you are in a crisis point, to actually reach out, because so many people go, like, I remember that I want to say Ryan Reynolds, but it's not Ryan Reynolds, it's that Ryan Gosling, where I remember seeing that meme where it's like, if you're dehydrated, it's too late. Whereas I think both of us, a lot of people come to us in crises moments, and there is that embarrassment, there's the guilt, there's the shame, and we've both been there. And it's like, please reach out, like, please.
Please reach out,
please.
Like, you have no, we would much rather you come. I'm sure it's the doctor. Much rather you come before you've got a blister that's the size of your leg. Like, come and just go, hey, should I be worried about this? Should I be worried about,
should I be swimming in my own pus? I'm not sure. Fucking come in, you idiot.
First being like limping around and going, well, dragging your leg in, going, well, I guess I probably need to get this checked out. And it's like, you've surely been struggling with this for 10 years. Like, why have you not come in? But like you said, we all, I think we've got to hit that own, like, it's funny, but then it's also serious of like,
no, it is.
I think everyone hit that point for themselves where it's like, enough is enough. Like, just stop, like, look at the situation, and it's obviously not going to be as serious or as silly as like what we're saying. All of these moments are going to be unique to the person and what they're going through, I guess. But each situation is serious in its own right. Like, what's serious to me is going to be different to what's serious for you. And so it's like, if you're letting things go unchecked, it might not seem serious now, but I guarantee in 10 years' time, if that's compounding year after year after year, that sore little ache in your leg is probably going to be a problem in your knee in 5 years' time, and then a problem with your hip in 10. And, it actually ends up being a much bigger thing, I think, than a lot of people take seriously when they're younger.
I was listening to a really great podcast on mental ill health, is the correct terminology, as I'm informed. And they were saying, and I've heard this many a time, of, because we don't see a problem, we think it's not a problem. And it's that ignorance is bliss. And I'm like that with certain areas was with certain areas in my life. I chose that, if I didn't see it, it wasn't a problem. And but if we actually, like, mental illness, or if we have like a commitment problem, if we saw that physically as like a trauma or like a severed leg, you don't wait 3 years to go to the doctor. It's like, you're not going to survive. But if we actually saw that before our body or our life started giving out, I'd be really curious to see how we would evolve as humans. And I think it would be much quicker than yeah, I just feel like we would be more highly evolved much quicker. But at the same time, there is a huge awareness being raised at the moment, and I feel like the consciousness is shifting globally, whether that's just, you know, in the sphere that we're hanging around, but I do see and feel a bigger shift going on collectively, which is really awesome.
I think that's just like education too, and things like these podcasts, like people putting content out there and like sharing their experiences. I think that's ultimately what we need to be doing more of, and like adding value and sharing value, not just putting out things for the sake of it. I mean, that can work and keep you entertained for a couple of minutes, but it's like sharing quality information and sharing what life really is like.
Right.
Because I think a lot of the times, pardon me, I think people go through things in silence, and like the way that things are working now, like you were saying years ago, it's like you'd go out and ask your neighbor for sugar, or you'd like do these things where it was like you're reaching out for these little moments of in these little moments of need, if you want something or you need something or you need that support. Whereas now it's like, oh, I can just Google it, or I can just do it from the comfort of my own house. And so people aren't so used to like actually going out and speaking up about certain things. And I think some people would probably even have a heart attack what we're doing right now, like going live or like putting a video up of ourselves. And I know we've both copped that a little bit of like, oh, I don't know how you do it. It's like, it's just that thing of like the idea of people are so much, they don't struggle as much with just being able to Google something or do it in silence now, because it's like, oh, well, it's easy, it's convenient. But what we end up seeing is the struggle comes later, or the struggle comes silently, where you catch up with them and you find out they've got this anxiety around people, or they can't talk to someone without taking a medication, or whatever it is for that unique person. I think, like you said, when you can't see it, like when it's something that's not physically tangible, like you can't hold anxiety or you can't hold a pain and look at it like that, people will let it go much longer than, say, if it's a cut leg.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're going in for the doctors for that one because you can see the blood pouring out, or you can see the bone exposed. It's a very obvious thing that needs treating. Whereas when it's something that's mental, and I like that you said that because it's so true. I think with both of our fields in both yoga and dog training, a lot of it is mental and a lot of it is like happening internally. And I think this is where a lot of people go wrong, is they don't see that urgency. They don't see the importance of how that's going to play out in years to come, because it doesn't look green and gooey and bloody. It's manifesting silently within the body.
Correct. As a final question before we move through some fun rapid questions at the end, which I just feel like I know you'll love, what is one really simple piece of advice that you would give to new dog owners who have awesome dogs already, and even dog owners that are like, that have had their dog for years and like have been struggling in silence? What is one piece of blanket information that you would give? What's one piece of wisdom?
That is a good one, isn't it? For all dog owners, regardless of what they're going through. I think, like, good question. I think understand, like, if you've already got the dog, it's going to be different, like before the dog and after the dog, but like understand what your goals are, just in general, like understand what you want a little bit in life. And this might not play into the dog training side, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier in terms of like owning a dog, because as much as possible, if you can involve that dog in the things that you enjoy, in the lifestyle that you have, your life is going to be so much more enjoyable and it's going to be so much more rewarding for you. And in terms of like incorporating the dog into it, obviously that starts with training, it starts with things in the house, but don't wait for something to happen. Don't wait for a catalyst. I really do not wait for, oh, my dog's great, doesn't need training. Everything's going great, don't need to worry about this and that. Do it. Like, make those small steps, even if it's 5 minutes a day to hand feed your dog and to work on the relationship you have with your dog, because I guarantee that whatever your relationship is now with your dog, it can be 50 times better with just doing it 5 minutes of hand feeding a day, working them, training, doing something with your dog, even if it's 5 minutes of play. Start to like become a leader in your own life, not only for you, but with your dog as well, where you're incorporating them into the things that you love and enjoy, and you'll see much more benefit, much more joy, and I think much less stress down the road if you've already practiced these things today, rather than waiting, when I get back from holidays in 5 years' time, I'll start then. It's like, no, once you've made, if something in you is like, oh, I wonder if I need to reach out to a trainer. I wonder if I want to watch this video. I wonder if I want to try this particular leash or tool. Just do it. Trial it now, because I know for me, years ago, there was many things that I thought of and wasn't sure of, and I didn't trust that. And I paid for that, years down the track. So if there's something in you that's, you're worried about or you're unsure of in terms of training, or that's going on with your dog, or maybe everything's going great and you just, you're loving life with your dog, still reach out and still check out content. Always be a learner in anything to do with your own growth and your dog's growth, because I think you can always be better in all capacities. I think that's probably the biggest one.
It's a really beautiful message, girl. And in the show notes, I will include your details where they can find you on social media. But Sarah is super approachable, super friendly. That's probably one of the most common feedback, some of the most common feedback that she gets. That she might not say that herself, but I know that when we're talking about business stuff, she'll say, oh, this owner said this or this and that. And what I hear is that, you are 100%, 100 billion% passionate about what you do. So you will give your time, sometimes at the expense of yourself, of staying up or getting up early, but it's always to add value to somebody else. And I think that's, something that I admire about you greatly, because you have the ability to do that not only in your professional world, but in your personal world as well. So yeah, like she said, you don't have to be in crisis point to reach out. Like, send her a photo, send us a photo. I love dogs. I get to reap the rewards of being around gorgeous dogs and her doing the training. So it's like, it's a pretty sweet world that I live in. But also to send in questions to her so she can give you more content that's focused. And with all of the details that I'll put in, you can look up what she does. She's got a lot of free content. She's got a lot of paid services. If you're in the Perth area, you can have your dog walked by a trained walker. So yeah, and that's going to be expanding as time moves on. So please keep your eyes peeled, and and I'll be keeping you updated as we're in the same vicinity. So it's super exciting I get excited to watch you grow, as well as being a part of that, girl. So proud of you.
Likewise, girl. I'm so excited and like to see where this podcast goes, because I know that you're already growing so much from it, and I'm endlessly proud of all the things that you do in general, and just of having you as a sister in general. But I'm really excited to see where this journey goes for you. And even in 50 years' time, when we're having a cup of watching all of this back, I know it's going to be, just as rewarding then as it is now. So thank you for having me on.
Totally. I just wanted to share before we do this quick fire that something that Sarah always used to tell me when we were little is that she was adopted from India, and was I like from Sweden or something? Like, I totally believed her, and I just believe everything she says, because she says it like with such beauty and with such passion. And even though that might have been a lie, I think that just adds to her, I don't know, it's kind of nice for the listener or the viewer to just see how our bond has been so strong, like from the get-go. And I know that's something I always say to you, is that I'm just so glad I chose you as a sister, because I truly do believe that we choose our family, and we do have the ability to choose our adopted family and our friends. And bloody hell, I chose well for my blood siblings. So yeah, you're just the best, girl.
I don't know if that makes you look good or me look, because I think
it makes me look good, of course.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it makes me look like a liar since I was 5. Like, I said I was from India. I'm not. So
who knows? Who knows? Past lives. I don't know what you guys believe in, but I'm certainly open to it. And I don't know why you've got brown hair and brown eyes, but you're gorgeous.
I don't know either, but maybe we put contacts in from birth. That could be another lie that we're twisting around. So leave that one with you guys. No, I love that. I love how you bring that up in every chance that you can. It's so, because I feel like it does sum us up, and like there's so many funny things that I could share about Lauren and just us growing up in general that would just completely blow up the internet, I think, if we shared it. Like at the same time, we'll probably have a podcast, I reckon. I was thinking that like we'll probably create a podcast if that's something that she's interested in, and if other people are interested, maybe that's a sister podcast we create down the track of just sharing like our little experiences and our silly things together as well growing up.
Yeah, I reckon it'll have to be under the Sisters Secrets heading, but like hashtag no secrets doesn't make sense, which completely makes sense.
Like, please have secrets. Hashtag please have secrets, because you've shared way too much information. Shut up, secrets, because
we're getting to that point.
Yeah, I know. We're just holding it together. We're about to probably go in and be nutcases together.
This is the language that I'm talking about, that people like tapping out, or maybe they're going, oh my God, I completely get what it's like. And I love that, because I know that
this far, girl, if they made it this far, I think they're a keeper, and you'll be watching our podcast broadcasting soon. So stay tuned.
Drop in your link below and we'll be with you very soon. Finally got it in there.
Never leave. That's it.
Okay.
On your podcast, broadcasting our podcast that's never happening. Like, what?
Interviewing us on the podcast that we never created. It's like, huh? What's our secret? Is this what?
Is it a secret? Everyone knew that already. Weird. I don't know how it came about. Sure. Google it. All right.
Speaking of Google, we're on quickfire. What was your last Google search?
Literally my name, because you asked me to Google it, Lauren.
No, that's brilliant. Yes,
it literally was, which makes me sound vain as anything, but
Sarah's
it was because
just been
Lauren
Googling herself, guys. I'm just going to mute my participant here, and she's been Googling herself. Very vain. All of those things that I was saying about.
Well. She's literally like, just Google your name and like see what comes up. And I Googled it. I'm like, oh, please don't, anyone. Don't
funny
Google
story.
Your name, because you probably.
We Googled it, and then our mum came up. Another story. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to continue. Now they're all on Google and they're not listening to the rest of this. But
hilarious. I guess aside from that, to save my name, I guess the last Google would have been Ethology, which is what I was just telling you about.
Yeah,
which means it's a word that I've recently learned, which means the study of animal behavior. Funny that. Interesting.
I love that. All right, next one. What is something even I don't know about you?
Oh, that is a good one.
Got everyone.
You do. Do you know I have a little like birthmark under here? Like it's like a weird kind of open. I'm not going to show it on camera, but I can show you like after. That's probably something, I don't know if you would know I have. It's like it's an odd style birthmark that I have sitting right underneath. And I remember always saying, I don't know if it was to mum or to who I said it to, but it's like, because mum had a cesarean with me, it's like they cut into me as a baby or something, and that must have been where the knife went. It got brutal all of a sudden, but I remember making that joke up. I'm like, I don't know if I made up a lot of lies as a kid, didn't I?
My whole life is a lie. I've spent the rest of it trying to figure out who I am.
That's it.
I remember you showing me one of your birthmarks, but I feel like I remember it being that white pigmentation. It kind of looked like that powdery color. It's really weird to explain because I know the texture of it and what it would look like, but I don't remember it in that location. So that's interesting.
No, that side. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Pardon?
So the left side, just at the top of your ribs there, you say?
Yeah, and I have it like all over my legs and stuff when it's really dry, but a completely different thing. So that's probably one, but I didn't know if that's along the lines of what you're wanting, or you want some juice.
No, that's cool. My pockets are dry.
My pockets.
Cool.
All the secrets are out. And hey, if you want more secrets, you'll probably have to listen to our Sister Secrets podcast coming out. So comment below.
If you want more secrets, you'll have to create a podcast for us because we aren't currently running one, and we'll be on your show. No worries.
Lauren will actually be on it because she's a co-host, but hey.
Your top TikTok recommend.
Top TikTok recommend.
I know you're a TikTok lover.
But like at the moment I am. I don't know why. But in which genre though? Because there's a few different ones.
Okay, you can have three.
Three? All right, so let's go Anna Exeter. I'm pretty sure that's how you say her name because she just has positive, fun, silly content with cool transitions. So that side for the content, and she has coffee. And then Coco Garcia, because I was just showing Lauren she's got really cool dog training tips. So on the dog side, she is awesome. And maybe, I don't remember the username, but there's a guy that like dances with his mum and dad, and I just find it so fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And I think just as a completely off the loop, just as a bit of a fun one, I think it's just cool to watch like families dancing together. So probably that one as well. I don't remember the username off the top of my head. Those three sound good.
I thought you would have said Ryan Maxwell. Disappointed.
Well, that's for you to share in our podcast coming up soon.
Coming up after this. Oh shit.
I'm
late.
He is great.
He's brilliant.
There's a lot of really good ones on there.
Yeah. Your top YouTube vlog. Or are they the same thing? I sound like an old person now. Are they the same thing, dear? YouTube.
I just thought. I know exactly who, and I'm glad I was watching them yesterday. The Bucket List Family show.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if I didn't somehow watch them yesterday, I don't think I would have remembered, which is weird because I love their content. Definitely Bucket List Families. I think that's just goals right there. I love the positivity. I love the family traveling and just the cultural side of things. And the experiences that they have, I think they are just awesome. They spread a good message. Culturally, it's just wicked and awesome to watch, and you should definitely go check them out if you haven't already.
What was your first job?
My first job was paid or not paid. No, I'm kidding. Peasant in the house.
Slave, and I'm still in it.
Dungeon is underneath the house. It was working. I'm pretty sure my first job was working in a bakery, which is funny. We were just talking about this the other day. I was going to be at the call center of a Pizza Hut or a Domino's or something like that, but I wasn't of age to work then. So we were moving at the time. And so I ended up getting a job at the bakery, the Fernvale Bakery, that was in the new area because we're moving from city to country pretty much. And so, and then as soon as I started working at the bakery, I became old enough to work, and I had a call from that call center to ask if I wanted the job. And it's I'm 14, guys, so back off with all the requests.
Guys,
no
I've got
thanks.
Heaps of jobs lined up. Whoa, mate, I'm actually real successful in my bakery business that's not mine, and I'm just making
No, you can't, honey. I've got 8 jobs on the go. I'm very busy. I'm studying uni. Yes, I'm 14. I'm studying.
Sorry, I'm also driving at the moment because they gave me an exemption. Because I'm 14.
Raising a family. I'm raising a family. Can you stop pestering me with your jobs? Thank you.
Whoa, guys, I've got another phone call coming in. I think it's another job interview. Just give me a sec.
So many
guys,
calls. It's weird.
I'm overwhelmed. I'm 14. Did I say?
And you know where this is going. I'm not doing it.
Oh my God.
Those that know the reference know the reference.
How much
this meant to be rapid fire?
This is rapid fire, but it's never rapid fire with me.
Never rapid, is it?
No. How much sleep do you aim for each night? And do you have any strategy behind that?
Nah, no strategy behind it. I think I'm learning. I'm someone that loves a lot of sleep. Like I do enjoy sleep, but then at the same time, it's weird. Like I can go without it. Like all of our seminars, we've had very little sleep and I function well off it. I think I just enjoy. I know I work better after I've had a good amount of sleep. The hours vary. Like I don't go to sleep a set time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also night owl, so I feel like now I'm starting to try and go to bed earlier so that I'm training myself to get up at a decent time. In terms of strategy, I do love listening to like relaxing music when I go to sleep. Like I have a relaxing meditation music. I always have been journaling now for a while before bed, just a quick journal, like a couple of minutes, put on a meditation app, and then typically put on like some relaxing sounds, whether it's the ocean or nature, something like that. But another weird thing is like I have to sleep with a fan on, even when it's cold, is like, and so that's another strategy, I guess, is that I have the sound of a fan. And if it's not on, it's very weird. I struggle to sleep without the feeling of a fan.
That's so cute. Like a little baby needing to be lulled.
I do. And it's like, it's not even just the sound I've learned, because it's like I can put music on and it's the like, I think it's running hot. And I remember chatting with mum about this, and she said she's the same. Like she just runs a lot of heat in her legs. And so it's like needing the air. Like I know upper body I can get cool, but feet are always hot. So it's like there's probably a problem there. But again, 10 years down the track, Lauren.
But again, it's about addressing the symptom late, guys. Address the symptom late.
Have you got the moral of the story? I hope you have, because we've forgotten about it.
Where's your happy place, girl? Mine's definitely with you in anything that we're doing, which, you know, is going to frame your next question to make you either look very good or very where's your happy place? Just
myself.
Yeah, cool.
Myself. So sorry. No, definitely with you as well. Like, you know, that 100% when I'm with you, with the dogs, Josh. I feel like we're the same in this. I don't want to speak for you, but I don't feel like I have a set place, because I feel like I adapt well to just being in flow and moving and not getting stuck into having a set place that I've got to be. So it wouldn't really be like a location necessarily for me, but I love the ocean and I love nature. So anywhere where I can be with my favorites, you and Josh and the dogs, and I think I'm in nature or in the ocean, and preferably with fire too. So if just all the elements came together, and air, I think that is really where I'm truly happy, because it's like you've got the mix of all the elements and you're outdoors, which I think is just a nice, it's just awesome to be out in the real world, isn't it? Like that's just a happy place in general.
Yeah, it is that was a lovely answer. What's a superpower that you've always wanted?
Superpower. Like, is this making up superpowers, or is this like anything? This is my brain, guys.
Yeah, you and probably a million of the listeners. The one listener, let's be real.
That's it. Let's be real. My phone's dead, so no one's listening there. I can't cheat. I think, I don't know. I think maybe teleporting. Like, as much as I love being grounded and being in one place, it's like, or flying. Like flying, I think, or teleporting would be two awesome ones, because like part of me loves the idea of teleporting and being able to any place at any time. But I feel like that also takes away the fun of getting to anticipate going somewhere too. So it's like that, or just flying in general, to be able to like be above and like to go into all those hidden places and see things that no one else has seen. I think that's super exciting. My laptop's also on 5% lovey,
Yeah.
so I don't know if I should.
No, we're going to wrap this up. So where can people find you, beautiful Sarah Quelhurst? Where can they find you to reach out, or just to get your juicy information about dogs, about your life, just about you in general? Because I'm a stalker of your information and I live with you. So yeah.
Just in case I cut out, thank you so much, girl, for having me on. I love you so much. I'll see you inside.
Yeah.
But my information is Instagram, so at Canine Calm, CANINECALM. Website, caninecalm.com.au. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you go onto my website, you can find all my other social media platforms from there, like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. That's probably the easiest place to find me. But I'm so appreciative of you having me on, and letting me ramble with you for a good hour and a bit, or however long we've been. I've lost track. I don't know where we are in the sphere of time. So thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have so much fun with you, whether we're in the same house, whether you're 5 meters away, you're going to come in. I'm going to still get excited to see you. And yeah, I just really appreciated your authenticity and transparency throughout the whole thing, and getting to see your humor come through that as well, as something that I absolutely love. I'll include all of her details in the show notes. And I forgot to do a little shout out in my previous podcast for some listeners who have been sharing this content and who have been getting back with feedback. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to the beautiful Heather Inns, who has sent me a message multiple times that she has been listening to the podcast and absolutely getting a lot of value out of each episode. And she was kind enough to give me feedback on ways that I can start to sharpen it. So I really want to encourage that to listeners and viewers. If there's anything that you're not getting in these podcasts and want to get, please send me a message or share this content to someone you know who it'll be valuable to. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to refining that and adding more value to you. So with that sense of feedback, I'm going to sign out with my little brand of With Oceans of Love and Light. You have been listening with Law. So actually, here we go. P.S. The whole reason that, you know, it's being called the Hey Law effect is that my gorgeous sister Sarah calls me Law and I call her Sarah. So this is how it's all kind of came full circle. And I love the play on words with it being halo. So it's like a conversation, but it's also with the analogy of it being a halo and it's shining light on people and topics of what they're passionate about. So again, I'm going to practice my little sign out. With Oceans of Love and Light, Law.